Hello everyone, my name is Grazian, and this is my 2025 Trials of Fire tutorial series. I did one of these back in 2023, and it recently got a bit of traction, so I'm hoping maybe people have found this really quite amazing game and gotten into it, so I thought I would make a new, updated version with better quality audio, and hopefully I can explain everything at least as well as the previous time. So Trials of Fire, what is it? It is a roguelike. It's got aspects of deck building. It's got exploration where you explore sort of a desolate wasteland that's been ravaged by, I think it's by the sun. Everything is scorched. There's glass on the ground. There's desert, sand, badlands, glass, charred areas. It's very hostile. There are very few settlements. There's monsters everywhere. There's ruins everywhere, and managing your food and your party's health and morale is very important. You'll make a party of 3 characters, and you will move them around in a turn-based fashion on this overworld map. Everything takes place in this book here, this Trials of Fire book, which is a really incredible thing. So for instance, if I go here and click on card catalog, again, see this book opens up. So everything takes place in this book. The game, most of the menus and things are all in this tome, which I think is a really fantastic idea. And when we get into a combat, the book will open up, and your pieces, sort of like you're playing Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, there'll be these tokens that represent the characters, and they sort of fall down onto the book on the grid, and then they kind of move around as if somebody's sort of moving them like that, and it's quite a cool system for that. Now, before I get into the game, do understand that this is going to be an episode 0, aka no actual gameplay. This is an explanation episode only, but I will be going pretty thoroughly through all the mechanics and sort of some strategies and things like that. And then in episode 1, maybe part of episode 0, we will get into a combat, and we'll be very, very careful to explain everything during the combat. After that, I will continue the run until I either win the quest or I lose. I will be playing an easier quest just so that it's easier for me to explain everything. And then if you are interested in the game, I advise you to take a look for it, grab it off of Steam or whatever sites you use, maybe check for a discount. But this is a fantastic game, and I am excited to share it with everybody. Now, before I go into select Choose Your Adventure, be aware that there will be minor spoilers for the unlockable characters. You start with only, I think it's 3, maybe 4 of the 9 characters, and then through gameplay and sort of relatively easy to do achievements that you progress through the game to acquire, you will unlock additional characters. So be aware, I'm going to spoil all but one of the characters that I don't have unlocked. So if we go into Choose Adventure here, you can see we actually get to choose the quest. So there's all these different quests. There are challenge quests like daily, combat run, boss rush, and then there's a seasonal challenge as well. You can also change the difficulty for any of these things. I'm going to be doing the basic water gem lore quest, which is the shortest one, starter quest. This is where you go out into the world from your village to acquire a water gem to bring back to save your people. I think it helps them get water, because that's something that's hard to come by in the wasteland. So you choose a quest, you choose a party, and you choose some starting equipment for your characters. So for instance, if I wanted to do this water gem quest, I could then go into here and drag and drop any characters that I wanted to bring with me into this lineup here. Then I can go over to items, and you can see, for instance, here the hunter can equip either of these blades. The blunt weapons can be equipped by the warlord or the elementalist. Here's some range options for him, and here's a magic item for these two. Now, it's in this case, these sort of double up like this, but you can have parties, like for instance, the alchemist can have some weird, let's put in some people like this. Now we can see that the charred assassin and the alchemist can both take these, but only the alchemist can take this. So you can see that there's all sorts of different weapon loadouts that each kind of character can use in-game, which I think is very cool. So this is not only how you start with your equipment, but it will actually have some impact on how you build your characters once you get into the game. So like I said, we're going to do the water gem quest. It's the shortest one. You can see my personal best is I've 100% of it. You've got a score or whatever if you want to check on your score versus other people. I'm number 16,553 in terms of score for this quest. So we go on over to party. So for instance, for me, I just unlocked this Spirit Speaker. I have never played this character, so I'm going to pop that character in. You can see I haven't unlocked this one because you have to spend 70 crafting materials improving or attuning items. So you can see this is one you'll just get over time. So it says that the Spirit Speaker can fit many roles, so I think that this character could possibly be built to be both melee and range. You can see he's got a wooden club as a recommended start, which gives him a bash, but he also wears like a lighter quality armor, cloth rags, which is interesting. So I think I'll take in a traditional range character like, say, the Hunter, and then maybe a traditional melee character like the Warrior. And then we can go over to items here, and we can see, you know, do I want him to start with a longbow? I could actually have him be more of a melee ranger. And have double strikes and things like that. Do I want this guy to start with a blunt weapon or a magic staff? Do I want my warrior to start with these heavy weapons here, or something lighter like a sword, and then, you know, something like that? Now, the important thing about items in this game is understand that items are one of, if not the greatest source of your character's powers. So each character, let me go out of here, and I'm going to show you the card code, the card catalog here. So this is a place where you can see all the cards in the game, apart from ones you haven't unlocked yet. If you haven't found them, then you haven't unlocked them to see them in here. So for instance, there's some kind of unknown, relatively simple action here that I haven't seen yet. These are basic ones. These means that one or more characters start with these in their decks. And these are things like move, you know, attack somebody with magic, defend yourself, throw a magic flask, you know, shoot some magic missiles, that kind of stuff. So these are pretty basic. A lot of the time you will be replacing these skills throughout a game, or perhaps upgrading them. Like in a lot of deck building style games, these cards can be upgraded. So if we take something like Advance, move 2 and gain a willpower, which I will explain when we get through the game. If I right click it, it turns into Advance Plus. And now we can see what it does if you upgrade it. It's move 3 and gain 1 willpower rather than move 2. So almost all cards can be upgraded. I did actually find one earlier today that cannot be upgraded outside of combat, which sounds weird, but you don't have to worry about it. But there are some interesting things going on there. We can also look through things like, what are all of the cards that the warrior can get? So here, if we see basic, that's because the warrior's starting deck will include just these 3 cards in a combination totaling 9. Every character starts with 9 cards in their basic deck in different sort of orientations. I think the warrior has like 2 of these, and a bunch of these, or something like that. And then as you upgrade, as you gain levels, you can gain these other action cards that are warrior specific, like Bulwark, gain a whole bunch of defense, or Counter Strike, melee attack 4, but it only gets attacked. You can only use it if you've been attacked. So there's a bunch of cool stuff like that in the game. And the same for all these other characters like the Alchemist. And if we go to somebody like the Spirit Seeker, or Spirit Speaker rather, look at all these cards that I've never seen because I've never played this character yet. So I can't really see what they can get until I've actually done it. We can also go back to items and see all the incredible things you can get through items. And there's lots of important things you'll get through items. So apart from your 9 basic cards, you will acquire powers based on your items. So let's take a look at that real quick. So if we go back into Choose Adventure, I have to reselect this, so don't forget to do that. Warrior, Hunter, Spirit Speaker. So if we go to items, let's hover over. So the warrior, remember, will have here's view starting deck, actually. What an incredible thing to have right there. So we've got advance, 4 swipes, 2 wild swings. These do 3 to 6 damage for 3 willpower. This card is pretty terrible, so I would recommend you replace that if you can't find a way to make it cheaper. And then adrenaline. This is a power. And we'll talk about this in the combat part. So that's the basic deck. Now, the deck size will change dramatically as you increase what kinds of items you're wearing. So, for instance, Framis here, who I'm going to call... oh, man, what should I call her? This guy's name is Goober. This guy's name is Goober the warrior, or the hunter. Okay, so then we need... let's call our warrior lady Frankie. Frankie, Goober, and Spirit Ruin is pretty good. So Frankie here has these starting 9 cards. Then if we hover this Bone Axe, it gives charge. So this is a two willpower, is essentially mana, right? It's a resource you use to play cards that have a cost. Move 3 to target, melee attack 2 plus 1 for each space moved. So this weapon helps you move and also do more damage based on how far you moved. It's a very offensive weapon. And then she has this bone armor. This gives a power that gives her defensive stance. This allows her to defend after performing a melee attack. So by attacking, you also get some defense. And we'll explain that in combat. You can also see it has an armor value of 2, which is something that's important to note. For instance, here's only 1 and 0 on the cloth rags. This one, however, has something called quality, which is also an aspect of armor that we'll talk about in the combat tutorial part. So just note that weapons and armor and all the other things you can equip will add cards to your deck. They don't replace cards. So note that the warrior, Frankie's starting deck of 9, will be a starting deck of 11. And during a turn, you will typically draw 3 cards. So by wearing a bunch of gear, you can actually have a pretty bloated deck, so you're unlikely to draw the things you want, but the cards you get from gear are often very strong and supplement the play style of the character based on what they're equipping. So it's kind of a give and take, right? You don't want to have too many cards in your deck that you can never get what you want, but you also want those really good, cool powers from the cards. Like there's some really interesting like eldritch items for like the casters that can hold, that give them these really weird powers that they hurt themselves and do a ton of damage, but really, really cool stuff in there. So let's go ahead on into Begin Journey, and then I will talk about the UI of the world map, and then we'll sort of look for how we can get into a fight, and once we do that, we'll do the combat tutorial. So this is, again, episode 0, no combat at all, and we might move around the world map a little bit. So let's begin Journey. So the settlement Terralyn is dying, and this is really, really cool. Anything that's blue, you can hover over and read an incredible amount of information. Now, I'm not going to read all of that to you guys. I don't want you to be bored. This is more about how to play the game for yourself. But if you want to read any of this stuff I hover over, just pause and look for it yourself. So our settlement is dying. You must travel to an elven palace to locate the legendary Waterstone and save your people from the drought. So the Waterstone is an elemental power of untold elemental power used to decorate, blah, 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 blah. It's believed the gem is the power to produce fresh water in enormous quantities. So very valuable for a dying settlement. So our objective is find the water gem. So we continue. So like I said, everything takes place in this book, which is super cool. So if we look over here, we have a very low resolution mini-map for the world, and this is different every time. These are procedurally generated. So let's take a look here. So the book has tabs that will take us to our characters. Here is what I was talking about with the equipment. So you see here, bone armor grants defensive stance. If I take the bone armor off, the card came out. So you see, here's my class cards. Here's my equipment card. So if I put this armor back on, it will add that card to the deck. We also have things like quality and armor. I think we'll go over those now, but we'll show you how they're used in combat. Armor is actually very, very simple compared to what it kind of looks like it might do. Everyone has 10 health max all the time, every character. Armor adds to your max health. So when I go into a combat, this 10 out of 10 will become 13 out of 13. Higher armor means you have health that isn't real, and you can sort of allow yourself to get hit a bit before you lose that armor. Another quality that gear has is, well, quality. In this case, we're not getting quality from our gear, we're getting it from something else that I'll talk about later. But quality allows you to make redraws in combat. So if you don't like your hand of cards that a particular character drew, you can dump them and redraw. So look out for these two things on armor and other equipment. It is important. Don't get too excited about the cool actions you get, though those are fun. Sometimes it is very important to make sure you have some armor and some quality. For instance, this is going to be my frontliner, so I want to prioritize things that are going to give her cards that give her defense and equipment that gives her armor, so she can tank a bit of damage. So if we just look over here at Goober, I can't believe his name is Goober. He's got 2 armor and 1 quality. Again, the quality is coming from somewhere else. We've got 1 armor on the leather rags. And then we have here Ruin, who has 2 quality and 1 armor. So one of these must have a quality on it. Here it is. The cloth rags have quality. Your cloth rags, leather rags, I see. Okay, very cool. So let's go back to our adventure. So what else is going on in the UI? We have our quest progression here. So there's 3 nodes that we need to complete. And I think there's a boss fight at each one of these, if I remember correctly. It's the first day. Here is our morale. So we are determined. Keeping the party's morale high by making progress towards your next objective. A high morale will grant bonus armor and redraws. That's where the extra armor and quality is coming from. Because you can see here, she has 2 armor and no quality, but she's got 3 armor and 1 quality. So that's coming from the fact that we are determined. Our party's feeling good, feeling ready, so they get bonuses. Here is our tiredness. So we are at fresh. So because we're at fresh, we have no effect. We're just good to go. And then we have to rest certain places to get our stamina back up. This is our food amount. This is our medicinal herbs, or sorry, mystic herbs. And then this is our obsidian, which is basically glass, dark glass that is used as coins. So essentially this is gold. So anytime you see the word obsidian, they're referring to basically gold coins, essentially. So at any point, we can click on this button here to make a camp. Now, we don't want to do this at this point because we do not need to rest. If you rest somewhere, always check here, environmental effects. So wherever you rest matters quite a bit. If I rest out in the open wasteland, I'm going to get very little stamina and maybe not even any health at all across my party, because it's not a very comfortable or safe place to rest. When you rest in ruins or in civilization, you get a much better bonus. So you can see here, in order to rest, we would use 1 food of our 3. We can upgrade an item, hone items, heal injuries, or meditate, or just rest. And you can do this as many times as you have food for. When you upgrade an item, you spend upgrade things that you have, which we have no materials at this point, to upgrade your gear, and that's how you upgrade the cards on here. So for instance, charge would turn into charge plus, and it would edit the, what it does down there, and it would require 2 of, I think those are leather pieces over there under right here. It shows materials. Sometimes, yeah, so that one needs bones. I think these ones need leather bits. And then they upgrade the cards that you get from those gear. So that's also important. And you do that while you rest. You can only upgrade while you rest. So if you have like 5 things you want to upgrade, you'd have to rest 5 times. So you got to kind of do it over time as you travel, because you don't want to sit there and just be upgrading and wasting all your food and time. So let's break camp. We'll talk about these other things. I'll mention them now. Honing items is using materials to take cards off of items. So for instance, let's say you have a club that gives you some really cool abilities that you want, but one of them is like a melee ability, and you've built your character to be more like mobile, and you don't really want that ability. You can take it out of the item so that you don't draw it during the game, during combat, because it would just be clogging up your hand. Meditate is a way to gain extra levels on characters, essentially, let them upgrade extra cards, and it costs these rare herbs. These are pretty special, so be very careful about these. And heal injuries. You can get, like in a lot of deck builders, you can get permanent injuries on your characters that are in the form of cards that go into their deck, and you can't get rid of them unless you heal them outside of combat. And those cards will do things like, sometimes they don't do anything, but they clog up your hand. Sometimes they'll do things like immobilize you, like if you have a broken leg, which I had the last game I played just earlier today. Or you can get things like a broken arm or any kind of thing like that. So you got to watch out for those effects. If you do find these herbs, hang on to them until you need them. Be careful about using them for meditating when they're very important for injuries. If a character falls in combat, aka goes all the way down to 0 health, but you win the combat with your remaining characters, they will come back with 1 health and an injury. So do understand that you can't lose unless your entire party is killed, but you can get pretty horrible injuries, so watch out for that. So let's break camp. You can always click on this and just see what's going on without having to actually spend anything, because I don't have to actually rest. I can just break camp. And then there was one other thing, the journal. So this will show our main objective, our side quests, and if we have any followers. These are somewhat rare, but you can get people that sort of follow your party around. They're not combatants, but they'll do things like make it so that when you upgrade items, it's cheaper or free, or honing items is free, or they might, add something else to your party. And then they can usually be used for other quest type things, which is very cool. Now, we've talked about how you get and use all of these things except for this morale. Now, what you do to keep your morale up is move towards your objective. So you see how we have an arrow here. It's a little bit obscured. If I go here and then leave again, you can see it for a moment. As long as we're moving towards our objective, our determination will go up. If we're moving away from it, it goes down. So you can't dilly-dally forever, because the party does have a sense of a goal in mind. They have a quest, they have a purpose. So if we're just dilly-dallying in the ruins, collecting stuff while our village is dying, we're going to lose morale. We know that every day we take is more danger for our people. So we can't just muck around forever. Now, if you see something interesting in the distance that you really want to grab, so for instance, here's a grassland, here's a ruins, you can go and do it, but just be careful to walk that line carefully. You don't want to get too low, because you'll start losing bonuses and maybe even gaining detriments. So let's take a look at sort of the world map. We've got impassable mountains. We have like badlands, sort of like ashlands. Down here it says grasslands. There's like this glassy stuff here from when the world was scorched. There's all sorts of ruins. You can find like elven ruins, human ruins. There's different races in this game. There's like these what are these people called? I can't remember. There's humans. There's these people called the Charred. There's these like insectoid looking people. There's like bat people. There's all sorts of monsters like dogs and spiders and just all sorts of nasty things. It's a pretty cool game. So we can see here, this is probably this is our starting town. So we can go here and see what's happening. So you can see when you travel, it's not going to cost us any of our meter because it's so close. There's a very high chance of being able to shop, a low chance of finding herbs, and a low chance of finding a battle. Usually this comes in the form of choosing an option from a list. So let's go to the town. So you warily enter the outskirts of a large settlement. So this one's right next to us, so apparently we don't know these people. You come across a flustered baker who tells you that a hybrid, I think this is what this is, a hybrid. Yes, sets of horns. I don't know what they're a hybrid with. Some sort of demons or something. Tells you a hybrid raiding party tried to rob the shop last night. So I could help him. I could offer to help fix and secure the shop. Looks like I would get food from him. I'd be able to shop, but there's a chance I take damage while I'm helping him. So it's the start. I'm not really in any danger at the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and take this option. The three of you set to work fixing his shop. Unfortunately, Frankie is hit by a falling slab of masonry from above and has a badly damaged left foot. Continue. So badly damaged left foot is kind of an overstatement, because really we only lost 2 health. We didn't get an injury or anything, so it's going to be fine. We actually get some gear as well as a piece of food. So if we just click take all, always click take all unless your inventory is full, which is pretty rare. Just take everything, because you can sell it and you can use it. So we've got more food. And then now we can shop here. So you can see they sell herbs, they sell crafting equipment, and they sell a couple of pieces of gear. A chain spear, that's an interesting ability. So this pulls enemies to you. I only have $50. Leather helm. Yeah. So we've got things like the pocket belt and the horn-tipped spear. So let's go into our inventory, which you can do from the shopping menu. Because you can like take items off and then go back to the store and sell them if you want. I'm not going to do that because I don't have any replacement. But we can go ahead and look at this. So you can see it'll show here. Do you see right here, under here, it shows all the characters, and it shows 1 square for 2 of them and 2 squares for Goober. That's because Goober has 2 slots for items like this, a bag item essentially. And you can see here that it shows Frankie has an additional slot for a weapon, but for Goober, it would replace what he has. So if we go to Goober and we hover this, you see how this box is lit up? There's only 1 slot for him to take this. And we don't really want to turn him into a spear guy, at least not at the moment. So we're going to go back to Frankie, and instead of replacing this axe, because the charge action can be good if you want to move and attack on the same turn, we're going to give her this horn-tipped spear. So we throw that in here. See how she's got a slot for a sword or an axe and a slot for a sword or a hammer. Then you can see she's got medium or heavy armor, helmet, shield or gauntlets, a bag item or a potion. And that's completely different for the different characters. So this guy can use a sword and a knife, or 2 bow-like items. And then our spirit speaker here, club, knife, club, or like a magic staff. And then he's got like ritual items, tomes, bag slots. So the different characters have really cool different loadouts. The alchemist has 3 potion slots available to him, which is really cool. So he's just chucking potions left, right, and center when you go into battles, which is pretty fun. So let's go ahead and drag this horn-tipped spear in here. You can see it's got quality 1. So that's going to increase her quality and add 2 more actions to our deck in the form of a power and an action, just an attack, basically. And then we have this pocket belt. This will add biding time. You may hold on to an additional card this turn. At the end of your turn, reduce the cost of all cards in hand by 2. A little complicated, but essentially this will let you sort of manipulate what's in your hand a little bit better. So who's going to benefit from that the best? It's kind of tough to say. It could be Goober, because sometimes it's hard to line up ranged attacks properly depending on the position of the enemy. So we'll just throw it here. So it's going to add this biding time action for him. So now we can go back to here. So you can see we actually wanted to equip those items. So we don't really have anything to sell. We have $50 and we have no herbs. We have 4 food. We can sell food, but I would honestly, like, unless you have 10 food and you really need something, I would not sell your food. It is very important. I'm actually going to spend 35 of my $50 on another point of food. So I'm up to 5. Food is used to rest. You can also drag a piece of food directly onto a character to heal. It's either 2, I think it might be 4 health. And you can also use it in events. So there's a lot of time when people might come up to you and be like, help, we're desperate for food. Please, we'll give you anything. And you give them some food and you get some stuff. But if you don't have any food, then it's not worth it because you'll just die. You'll die out in the desert. So we've done everything we can here. We don't have any money left, really. So we continue on. We helped out a poor vendor. And now we're back to the world map. So the game is played out. There are lots of events in the game. I think they're almost always at spots where you can see them. I don't think they happen while you're just wandering around. You have to actually go to an event, a place with an event in it. So what we want to do now is head towards our quest. We don't really want to muck around back here too much. Now there's this huge mountain range, which if I'm looking at the direction of the arrow, it looks like it's probably over here, and this mountain range looks like it goes pretty far. So I don't want to go this way because it looks like I might get trapped out here, not able to get to my quest. So we're going to go this way. Oh my god, this mountain range is huge. All right, well, since we do have to go all the way around the mountain range, I will just go over to these ruins. Looks like we are out of time, so this is going to have a battle. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over right next to here. And so this here, by the way, is like a group of bandits or something. Some of them will stay put. Some of them will follow you around. They're typically slower than you, though. So if you start getting followed and you don't want to fight, just go the other way. And they'll probably like lose track of you or give up. If they're staying put, you can go and investigate. It might be an event. You might have a combat. You're not sure. But for now, we're going to end the episode. I think I've explained basically everything there is to know about the UI, equipping items, and that sort of thing. And we'll talk about level ups after combat because we won't have one until then. So I think we're all set to end this episode. I think if you've watched this part, you're all set. You're all ready to set up a game and start moving around the overworld and doing quests, doing events, and sort of paying attention to what kind of gear and cards and stuff your characters have. In the next episode, we will start. I'll probably call that one episode 1 because it probably won't take me the whole episode to explain a combat. We'll go into these ruins. We'll almost certainly have a fight. In fact, it looks like it's basically inevitable. And then we'll talk about combat very in depth because this is a tutorial series. And then we'll talk about level ups after that. And then after that, I will complete this quest for this series. So there'll probably be 5 to 10 episodes of this series, depending on how hard it is, if I get good or bad luck, if I play well or not, and how much I want to explain. So I will be going pretty far in depth. So thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope this tutorial series, especially this episode and the next one, are going to be very helpful for you guys if you're interested in Trials of Fire, which is a fantastic game. Developers, if you are watching this video for some reason, please know that I love this game and I tell people about it all the time. So thank you everybody for watching, and come on back for the next episode for the combat tutorial, and then you will be ready to take on the charred landscape on your own. Thanks for watching.